Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Coolbet Canada, the Listowel Squash Courts, Listowel Vision Care, and See the Game. Clarkey and I are back for another great week of sports chatter, and we're pleased to welcome on our friend, one of our favorite guys to talk about baseball with, Mr. Jim Cressman, longtime umpire, former journalist as well. Jim, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, guys. It's great to be with you as always.
It's great to have you back on. I know
you guys
Clarkey.
You guys pay the big bucks.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. Clarkey in particular. And I know you're his favorite guest because you guys agree on everything. So let's start talking about the Blue Jays here. Obviously, taking on the Yankees as we record this in the final game of the series. As we record, Aaron Judge still looking for 61. But let's talk about the base running blunder from the previous game where we saw Bo Bichette make a number of mistakes, including a bad throwing error and a base running error. Vladdy, the same thing. Buck Martinez took them to task on air. Some people really loved it, including myself. Other people thought he was too harsh. What was your take on what occurred?
I didn't think he was harsh enough. But I thought after the post game too, Caleb and Joe, they also took them to task too. They've got to start getting serious. Mm-hmm. Like if they don't get serious, it's going to be 2-0. Like they keep talking about the postseason and this team's got everything that they can go all the way. If they keep playing like this, they're not going to go anywhere. It'll be 2 games and out because they got to start getting serious. They keep showing these guys in the dugout. It's okay to have some fun, but it seems they're always having fun. Like last night, they were losing, and they showed Vladdy and Lourdes, and I think Lourdes is a distraction in the dugout. He's not playing, and he's in there goofing around, and they got to stop that. They got to start being into the game. They got to watch the game and be serious about it. And because if you're goofing around, that's when you start making these base running blunders that we saw. And John Schneider said that he spoke to them about it, but I think, you know what, if you guys are old enough to remember Billy Martin, well, I know Clarkey is. If Billy Martin was managing this team, he would have been in their faces in the dugout. There might have been a fist fight going back to the days of Reggie Jackson.
Absolutely, and Schneider said it was inexcusable. What does that mean? What's the accountability? Did you sit him the next game? No. So what does that mean? Does that mean next time he makes an error, he's not playing? Like, what does that mean?
There's got to be some form of, if you want to say quote unquote punishment, where they will realize we can't do this again. But no, You know what? They're right back out there, and it like the fact that Vladdy went stood there and admired a fly ball to left field or to the left field corner. He's standing at home plate watching it. And then all of a sudden, it's not going to be a home run. And now he starts running and he just decides, well, I'm going to run to second base. Well, no, you know what? You run to second. You try to stretch that into a double if you're 30 pounds lighter. I don't know what you've noticed, but I think he keeps packing on. He's packed on more weight as the season's gone on. He's got to stay away from the post-game buffet. But I know I'm kind of saying that jokingly, but in all seriousness, no, you don't do what he did last night when you've got all that weight and we're at the end of September. He's tired. You could see that.
You know, it's funny you say he stood there at home plate. I was at the game last night, and I didn't see that. And of course, the in-house production is from the 1980s, where, like, I don't understand. They have a huge video replay screen, and they won't show things like that because it's, it might upset Vladdy that we showed him standing there. But the whole, like, I think you and I are on the same page, not a lot of times, but on this Rogers thing, and just how they do their radio station and produce their TV and produce in-house games. Not to change the topic away from the Jays, but man, oh man, it wasn't a good in-house experience yesterday at that game. I'll tell you that much.
Well, they eventually showed it on TV. It took them a while, and then Buck got into it. Not to criticize Dan Shulman, but yes, to criticize Shulman. he won't say anything negative. He leaves it all up to Buck. And then after the game, as I say, it was Caleb and Joe took them to task. But I'm really disappointed in Dan Schulman. Like, I thought he was better than what he is, but he won't say anything bad about this team. He just leaves it. He leaves Buck out to dry. Even tonight during the game, Buck brought it up again, and Schulman was quiet, absolutely quiet. He didn't say a word about it.
That just goes to the broadcaster owning the team, plain and simple. He knows who signs his checks, right? But it's not a very good broadcast because of it.
Yeah, it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
But Jays fans don't know any different. They think it's great. But if you know what, if that was the New York Yankees that did that last night, Mike O'Kay and David Cohn would have been going up one side, down the other, and back up the other, back up them again. Like as Schneider said, it's inexcusable, but that's all he said.
Right. What does that mean?
I know. Yeah. I like him. I think he should be the manager. He's done some great things since taking over. Yeah. But I think he's got to be a little bit more forceful. Like he's got to hold them accountable publicly. Maybe that's the only way to get through to these guys. But as I said to somebody else, though, if he sat Vladdy, then he would sulk and they would lose him. He would sit on and the other night too. What really bothered me about Vladdy after he hit the walk-off, the base hit, is he's yelling, "My home, my home." No, it should be our home, our home. It's like, I don't know whether he realizes he's being selfish when he does stuff like that, but that's where some of these other players like Springer and that need to go and talk to him about this sort of stuff and change it. They've coddled these young, they keep talking about these young players. But they're not going to be young. They're not young forever. They've coddled them long enough. It's time they start acting like professionals.
Yeah.
There's my rant.
No, that's the complaint from a lot of people. And like, I don't have a problem with them having fun and, doing whatever when they're winning and doing good things, but you've got to achieve something first, like do a good thing and beat your opponent, especially the Yankees on home field and then celebrate. Like, I don't have a problem celebrating and doing whatever after a game and you won the game, but that blunder and then Bo's, whole thing stepping off the bag and, another throwing error. It's one of those things where, the Jays' depth is not as great as some people like to think it is. So they really can't bench these guys down the stretch. It's so imperative that they get home field advantage for the wild card. And I think they will. Seattle's falling off. They got the job done eventually in Tampa. So we'll see. And now after the Yankees series, as this show airs, they'll be taking on the Red Sox, who are an atrocious ball club, and they've got to sweep the Red Sox, at least win 2. Now, I want to turn your attention to go ahead.
Just about every time Bo throws over to first base, to use a quote from a great baseball movie, he lollygags. Like last night, he just gave it a little, lollygag, flip over to first base, and it wasn't even near the bag.
No.
Anyway,
I think
not as bad as Steve Sachs, but he's
well, no, but I think that it's because when he tries to throw it over there and whistle it like Matt Chapman does, and that's Matt Chapman. We're not expecting you to throw it like Matt Chapman. No one does. But when he tries to laser it, he misses and launches it 5 feet over Vladdy's head. So I think he's easing off because he's afraid of making a mistake. But when you have that mentality, you make more mistakes. He still, to me, has not become a even decent fielder. He's okay at it, but you can't take him out of the lineup because of his bat. I think that there are well over 10 shortstops that are far better, probably 15 that are far better defenders. We can argue about the bat, but they're far better defenders than Bo Bichette is. And I don't care if he ever becomes an elite defender. Like, I don't expect him to become, Trey Turner or somebody like that. Like, that's not what we want. It's just that consistency that him and Vlad both need to incorporate a little more into their game, because I would still largely say they both had somewhat disappointing seasons.
in the playoffs, the defense becomes the liability. Bill Buckner.
Oh,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know what? If the roster's healthy, and if I'm John Schneider, I DH Bo tonight and put Espinal or whoever at short. You gotta send a message. Like, they have to have their best defensive team out there. And yeah, he screwed up on the base paths too, but his defense I thought was awful. I cringed every time there was a ground ball to him. That's a starting shortstop. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
You just think he's going to throw it away every time.
Maybe in the offseason they're going to start maybe looking at another position for him. Because as you say, you got to have his bat in the lineup. There's nothing wrong with his offense. He's great at the plate, but he is the liability on the field.
Yeah. Hey, let's turn our attention to the Yankees and Aaron Judge and all the walks. There was a lot of walks last night. It was funny being at the game because when he was swinging and missing, the fans were like, yeah, strike him out. And then they walk him and they all boo, right? But I didn't think they certainly didn't walk him intentionally last night. He had some good hacks, and it was full counts, I think, 3 times. But do you think the pressure's getting there in a little bit?
And they did the same tonight too. There was a wild pitch or whatever. It was runners at first and second. They advanced. First base was open. Schneider still had them pitch to him. So I give Schneider credit for doing that as well. But I know you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And Shulman said that it was all the Yankee fans were booing. I saw some Blue Jay fans on TV that were standing up booing as well.
I was there last night. There was a lot of Jays fans booing.
If you're a baseball fan, you want to be there when he does it.
Yeah, I was there. I wanted to see it. I was in the first row, 200 level left field. I was thinking I'm going to be a rich man leaving this ballpark, but no.
Yeah, I saw your social media posts. I thought you should have got off your wallet, spent a little bit more for a better seat, but that's okay.
I bought 4 hot dogs last night. You know how much that cost? $4.
You only bought 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see. Well, I still think you got some in your cheeks there.
I didn't say I ate 4. I was with Jen and my daughter. She had 1. I had 3. But but it just goes to prove too, if you lower the prices on concession stand stuff, you sell more. They sold 50,000 hot dogs last night. 50,000.
No, Clarkey. Yeah. I saw online that they sold 444,000 hot dogs.
Well, Jenna sent me a chart that showed they sold 50,000 last night. So maybe there's a controversy on how many they sold, but
I don't know if that was a typo.
I thought that was the season. Let me just check what she sent me here.
Hold on. I'll look this up because I could have
So that's the season total, Ryan. Season
total
on Looney hot dog nights. They've sold 444,000 on Looney hot dog. Last night was the most at 50,000. It was 1.25 per person.
How many did you have in your pocket when you left the stadium?
The funny thing is, but the people were throwing them around.
I love the fact you said Skydome on your social media post too.
I did that I always do. I don't call it the other one. I call it Skydome. And when if
Clarkey is nothing else, no, that's not what it is. If Clarkey is nothing else, it's indignant, and he will take every opportunity to fire a barb toward the what broadcasting company. So that's what that is. Now that's a lot of hot dogs. I would have probably eaten 8 or 9, but you're right, and that goes to something that we'll talk about as well a little bit later in the show. Just the cost of being a fan, Clarkey, because it's getting ridiculous. Now, I on the note of Judge, we talk about the 4 walks the other night. 3 of them were on full counts. Like, they weren't intentionally walking. No. They were going after him, trying to get him to swing at stuff in the dirt. And Stephen A. Smith, who I'm entertained by generally. Like, I think he's entertaining. Is he a little over the top? Is he a little annoying? Am I describing myself? Yeah, but I like him. But he had an absolutely atrocious take today as we record this on Wednesday. He got on in the morning on First Take and said the Jays should be embarrassed, and it's better for baseball for them to not walk Judge and have him hit the home run and whatever. And he's imploring pitchers to have a heart. That's what he said. Pitchers, have a heart. Like, pitch to this guy. No, Steven. Because, look, it's going to be cool if Judge will do it. He will pass Maris, I think. Yeah. He's got 2 more home runs in him. But if you're a fan of the team playing them, the Jays in this instance, no one in the grand scheme of things will give a damn when the Blue Jays get brought up as a fan about Judge breaking the record. It'll be a cool thing that you talk about and go, oh, remember I was at that game, or remember when he did that. Yankees fans will care. Why should we cater to your guy so that he can break a record in our house? No, absolutely not. We're not here to give out freebies. We're in a playoff race trying to clinch the first wild card. I'm not letting you hit a 2 or 3 run bomb. Like, what are you talking about? What was your reaction to that?
No, I totally agree. I was going to say that the Jays are still trying to clinch that top wild card spot because it really does mean something, especially playing in that ballpark, because that roof will be closed. And it is loud in there, and that can be like a 10th player on the field for the Blue Jays. The other night against Boston, Cora pitched to him because the Red Sox are out of it, and so Cora pitched to him. But until Toronto clinches, like there's nothing saying that the Jays could not go and lose every game between now and the end of the season too. They could go on a losing streak and then not even make it. So it would go back to the fact that they could point back. Oh, you pitched to Judge and he beat you. So I totally agree. Totally agree with you on that point.
We're old enough to remember 87. I think it was. They had Didn't they have a 6-game lead and they blew it? That was the year Fernandez broke his foot or something.
Well, look at last season. They missed the postseason by 1 game.
By 1 game.
And what's his name? They blew.
Yeah. Well, they blew. I can't remember who was it. The guy Marcus Semien threw like 2 outs in the top of the ninth, and he made an error, and they lost that game. He doesn't make that error. They made the playoffs, Ryan. I know what you're going to say. Yeah, right.
As Yogi
That's
used
your
to say,
favorite moment to bring up. Yeah,
it is.
I was just going to say, as Yogi used to say, it ain't over till it's over.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I remember it because you bring it up so often, Clarkey. It was against Chicago White Sox.
Yes, it was.
The White Sox ended up coming back and beating the Jays in 11 innings, if I'm not mistaken. I digress. Stephen A. Smith aside, this is a cool and significant moment for baseball. Aaron Judge bet on himself. He is going to get an absolutely fat contract, probably 8 or 9 years. He'll be 31 next season, but someone will pay him. It better be the Yankees, but if it's not, Uncle Steve down the road on the other side of the city will pony up and pay him. Now, I want your opinion on this.
The best thing Judge and his agent did this year was not sign.
Absolutely.
That was smart. Oh,
they turned down, I believe it was $240 million. And
I think that's what it was,
he's going to get almost double that now. Now, I don't think he'll ever hit 60 home runs again, but he is an elite player. Now, I want your opinion on this.
Buy a lot of hot dogs.
He should take Clarkey out, get some fancy chili dogs or something, man. I'm in.
He's wearing footlongs too, by the way. They were just little hot dogs.
No, so, I know. Now,
take Clarkey to Coney Island. Clarkey should go in the hot dog eating contest against Joey Chestnut.
Not a chance. That's the grossest thing ever.
That guy is a freak. I would. He's a freak. He's nonstop. Did you see this year at the hot dog eating contest when he threw that guy off the stage?
Yeah.
I know.
It was amazing. Like, hey, man, I'm in my zone. What are you doing?
I know. And he just keep.
It's like going up there while Jimmy Page is playing a guitar solo and kicking the amp. Like, what are you doing, man? Anyway,
I watch that and I want to vomit. Like I just.
That's what I'm saying.
Him and Kobayashi and all those guys. Yeah, the soaking them in water is where it gets brutal for me. Like anyway, it's just goofy to me when it comes to Pete Rose. We've talked about this before, Jim. I'd love your opinion on it. All the sports leagues now are like buddy with betting sites. I love Coolbet. I use Coolbet all the time. I bet on baseball tonight with our friends at Coolbet. But now the leagues are like in bed with all of these sports books, and Pete Rose was betting on his team to win, which yes, it was wrong.
He didn't bet on them to lose. He bet on them to win. So But and the best thing about this betting stuff now is you can even bet in the 8th inning. It's crazy. It's crazy. What is it? The bet
just about whatever you want
or whatever. The commercial now says you can bet on over 700,000 different games a year. Like, who's got that kind of money? I guess some people do, but as you say, the leagues are in bed with these people, and they're still punishing this guy.
Yeah, it's a joke. And say what you will about the type of guy he is. I don't necessarily know that he's the most awesome person, but when we're talking about greatness on the field, he got more hits than anybody ever, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds has more home runs than anybody, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. How on earth does that make sense?
Can I say ass on this show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Charlie Hustle busted his ass every time he was on that field. I don't think there's ever been another player who played the way he played. And to deny him the Hall of Fame is it's atrocious. It's ridiculous.
All-star games included.
Yeah.
Dude,
oh, God.
Pete Rose broke Ray Fosse's forearm and shoulder in an All-Star game.
In an All-Star game. Somebody forgot to tell Pete that was the All-Star game. He just thought it was another game.
Yeah.
No kidding. And Ray, God love him, he forgave him. And Ray was one of my favorite broadcasters. He was the best. I will say, if anybody does have that kind of money to bet on all those games, use it on Coolbet. The Bet Builder is my we all know this. I love the Bet Builder. Jim.
Well, I'm retired. I can't risk my life savings.
No, don't. Hey, you just, if you're going to do it, be responsible. Like, let's not lay $5,000 down here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in closing, it's looking as the standings currently sit where we're sitting right now. The Jays would host the Rays. Do you like them to win that series, Jim?
I don't know. The Rays are a pretty good team. Of course, the Rays might not have a stadium to go home to. Well, of course, actually, that area really didn't get, as we talk, it's south down Naples, Sarasota way that's really getting blasted. Up in the Tampa, St. Pete area, they're not getting it. I was thinking, my God, they might lose that stadium. Please.
Yeah.
That is like talking about atrocious. Anyway, that team should be in Montreal anyway, but we could spend a half an hour just talking about that.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I like the Rays. They've been playing good baseball. Like, you can't deny that. But the team that I'm saying, other than for the Dodgers, the team that I'm saying watch out for Tito's Guardians. I like the way he's got them playing, and
they are something.
Yeah,
I'm always a Terry Francona fan too.
Everybody likes him. He's such a likable guy. Everything he's been through.
You like all those old school guys.
Yeah. He just seems like a good dude. The players like him wherever he goes. I like that lineup too, man. You're talking Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, who's one of my favorite stories in baseball. Ramirez, this Quan kid who's legitimately in the contention for Rookie of the Year. I like that call. The Guardians, watch out for them. And one note as well to note, Clarkey, I saw this today with the Rays. My favorite pitcher in the big leagues, Tyler Glasnow, is officially off IR. And if he can pitch for the Rays, watch out for that 12-6 curveball, baby. I'm telling you what, I love Glasnow. I just hope he doesn't torture the Jays. Jim,
let me just ask one question before we go. Do the Jays, if they have to win their last game of the season and Manoah's available to pitch, do they pitch him knowing that it could get home field even though they've clinched a playoff spot, or do they hold him for the playoffs? It's a tough call.
We'll wait for Schneider to decide that.
Yeah.
But he's a greater mind than I have. That's a tough one.
He says he's going to pitch him if it means winning the clinching home field.
Two things I want to say in closing. The Jays better hire Schneider, and the Phillies better hire Robbie Thompson. And I know they can't do it until the season's over because of the diversity program. They have to do interviews and stuff like that. But those are two hires that really need to be made.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jim. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
We didn't even talk about umpiring or anything. Like, I had no complaints, Jim. No complaints.
I was going to make a comment off the top. I really think it's great that you're being sponsored by Vision Care, because the umpires aren't going to need vision care when they bring these robo-umps in. Who are you going to yell at now, Clarkey?
There's still people that yell at. That's only for balls and strikes. They still can make bad calls out there. We all know that. They're going to use it in Little League too, because they should.
Oh, well,
I'm not getting into that. We're not doing
it's always
that
the
to
classic,
our friend Jim.
though, the classic YouTube videos, though, of the Little League when the pitch is clearly 4 feet outside and they're calling it a strike. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because they want the kids to swing the bat. Swing the bat.
Yeah,
just swing the bat. Let's all get out of here and have a couple hot dogs, all right? That's what it all comes down to.
Clarkey's got them in his pocket. They're in his pocket. Check them.
Yeah, I sold them for $2 on the street in Listowel today.
Yeah, email me. I'll get you his address. I'll get you his address for the hot dog heads out there. Jim Cressman, longtime umpire and journalist. We appreciate it as always, my friend.
Thanks, guys. It's always fun. It is fun.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, NHL hockey right around the corner.
Ryan.
Yes.
Do I have time to go get my hair cut between here?
I guess I'll let you do that.
Okay, I'll be back. I'll be back real quick.
Clarkey wants to look fresh for one of our favorites. Been a while since we've chatted with this guy. Jason Maslakow, your friendly neighborhood dark guy, coming up next to talk Maple Leafs and NHL hockey here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We appreciate our friend Jim Cressman for joining us to chat some baseball.
What do you think, Ryan?
Brought to you as always. Oh yeah, you got your little
between
buzz
segments. There. The barber came in between segments here. Looking good,
for you, man. Yeah. Yep. High and tight. Tight.
Oh yeah.
Straight to the army.
Right down to the wood on the side here. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very pleased to be joined. As I mentioned at the end of the last segment, we're brought to you by Coolbet, the Listowel Squash Courts, Listowel Vision Care, and See the Game. Very pleased to be joined by a great friend of the show, one of our good buddies. Very excited to have him back, Mr. Dart Guy. It's Jason Maslakow. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Drury, Clarkey, thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure.
Always great to have you on, man.
It's great to see you, man. I mean, first of all, how is the summer, man? You're all kitted out in your Collingwood Blues gear. I know you're busy getting ready. It's been a great start to the season for them. How was summer leading in? Like, what was it like for you running around scouting guys? What was that like?
Summer's actually the time where it's not too bad. I get to enjoy some time up at the camp with my lovely lady and the kids. So the summer was great. Had a great time. Now the hockey season's ramping up. I'm pretty much in a rink every single weekend for 12 hours a day.
Nice.
I love it, man. It's great to hear. And
how's Dark Guy life doing? Like, you still being recognized out there? Like, you gonna paint it up this year and go to a couple games?
Absolutely. I have to keep going with it. Quite honestly, we had a parent teacher meet the teacher night last night, and it turns out my stepdaughter's teacher is a giant Leafs fan.
Nice.
So while we were standing there talking, I was kind of getting that side look, and he's looking at me, and he just kind of says he was a big Leafs fan. I said, "Oh, big Leafs fan. Do you remember 2017?" And he went, "It's you."
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that's perfect.
Long story short, I'm definitely still getting recognized, even with the big beard done.
Yeah, perfect. That's good. We need to go to a game together. I'd love to go to a game. Yeah, let's do it.
100%,
Ryan will get us some tickets.
Whenever that happens, we have to bring Ryan so I can have my nice Samsonov jersey on for him.
That's right. What do you think about the goaltending? Let's get right into it here. This seems to be a bone of contention.
A lot of skepticism going into the season. A lot of question marks for a lot of people, but I'm not one of them. I'm looking at the duo of Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov, and I am looking at perhaps the best goaltending duo the Leafs have had in recent memory. I don't think there's going to be a problem with the Leafs goaltending this year. I think it's going to be an afterthought after the first couple of weeks of the season.
I hope you're right, bud.
You're very optimistic. Listen, like Matt Murray, I agree with you if everything falls the Leafs' way when it comes to these two guys. With Murray, we know he can get locked in. I mean, he was a major part and the majority part in terms of the crease, with a little help along the way from Marc-Andre Fleury in those back-to-back cup runs, but he was the main guy. Now, injuries, and if he stays healthy, we know that he can get into his zone, and hopefully he can do that. Samsonov is the same story, but for a different reason. It's all between the ears for him. And I'm going to tell you from a Caps fan perspective, I couldn't be more excited that this guy is not in my crease. I'm done. I'm so done with this guy. I'm sick of the second, third, and fourth bullets this guy has used, from never wanting to grab the ball and run with it, completely inconsistent play, swimming around in the crease. He has no depth perception, tracks the puck extremely poorly. Is he big, skilled, and athletic enough to be a good goaltender? Yes, but he relies way too much on that athleticism to make the dazzling desperation save, when he could just learn to be a little more economical with his movement. Jason, and Clarkey to a degree as well. You guys know your goalies. He is not quiet at all. You're going to see a goaltender that is flopping all over the place, drops his stick a mountainous amount of times, loses his ability to know where the posts are and where his net is. And if he can somehow fix that, he could be an effective goaltender. But for all the people out there going, oh, Washington never really gave him a shot, it's been like 5 years. They keep handing this guy the shovel and go, dig for us. And all he did was dig himself a hole. And if he can screw his head on straight, he could be an effective piece for the Leafs. But if he can't, if he gives you the exact same thing he gave Washington, he will be in the KHL next year and he'll stay there. I'm just telling you.
This is where I'm going to stop you. Jack Campbell came into the Toronto Maple Leafs, and every single person, including myself, questioned his ability to get it right between the ears. We took a goaltender who struggled for 11 years in the NHL to carve out a starting role, and turned him into what largely people were considering a Vezina candidate at times during his stint in Toronto. I am not concerned. I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs have everything in place, have the staff in place to help him work through any issues that may have plagued them in Washington. And the big thing is, he's what? I'm not even.
He's 26
right now. 26.
Yeah.
When do goalies technically run into their prime? 27, 28 years old?
56, I'm hoping.
Well, here's the thing. You're talking about a goaltender that has all the skills, all the athleticism, and the entire pedigree to be a number one goaltender in the NHL.
And DartGuy, wouldn't it be great if the Leafs caught lightning in a bottle with a goalie? Because they haven't.
Absolutely. And this is why I'm so excited for him. I've watched this kid for years. He has the tools to be that guy. He has the tools to be a Vasilevsky. I'm not saying he's going to be. I'm saying he has the tools to do it.
And apparently he was training all summer. He was training all summer with Shesterkin.
He turned down more term. He wants to be in Toronto. He wants to prove himself here. He sees an opportunity, and I think he's going to grab that and run with it. But before we even go that far, let's not forget about, like you said, Matt Murray. Mm-hmm. A lot of Matt Murray's, detractors or haters, whatever you want to say, skeptics, don't look at some of the underlying numbers from last year with Ottawa, where he really wasn't a bad goalie. Yeah, he was on a bad team, but the underlying numbers saying he's doing his job and he's stopping the puck. Now, his game started to go downhill when his father got sick. Some people have heard the story, some people have not. Well, here it is. Murray's a Thunder Bay boy. Him and his father grew up Leaf fans. His relationship with his father was so typical of what you see of every NHLer player. His dad drove him to those 6 a.m. practices. His dad scratched and saved money to drive him from Thunder Bay to Toronto to watch the Leafs. He had a very close relationship with his father. And when his father passed, got sick and passed, he struggled. And he struggled with his game. Now, you're going to take a guy, again, with the pedigree of Matt Murray, who is now going to be playing for his childhood team, the team that his father drove him from Thunder Bay to Toronto to go see, and he's going to be playing for that memory of his father. Now, if that isn't reason enough for you to get behind Matt Murray and believe in him, like, you don't think he's going to come to Toronto with a bolt of lightning, a fire lit under his ass? He's going to want to play his heart out for his childhood team that his dad loved. I am not concerned about our goaltending whatsoever.
I agree. Like, I think the Matt Murray thing, again, like I say with him, the health is the worry with him. I have no qualms about him being and having the ability to and showing the ability to be a quality NHL goaltender. And you're right. There is a story. There's a redemptive story arc here that is so tantalizing when it comes to Murray because of everything you just detailed. With Samsonov, again, you're right. The tools are there. It's not like this guy's career is over. It will be if he can't get it right in Toronto, though, because I don't care how many tools you have. If the person putting their mitts in the toolbox doesn't know how to operate the power tools, it really doesn't matter. And I will disagree with you saying that he has the pedigree to be an NHL starter, because he has shown the exact opposite for the entirety of his NHL career, bar a game or two. He has to prove that he can become a guy with the pedigree to be a goaltender, because he has done absolutely nothing close to that.
Well, that sounds like
up to this point.
That opinion sounds like a lover's scorn, Ryan.
It is. We wasted a first-round pick on this guy. A first-round pick, and he couldn't take the crease on a team with Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Carlson on it. Like, God bless you guys, because if he does it, because you're right, the tools are all there. If he does it, you will have a really good goaltender. But he has done absolutely nothing. I would dare say the opposite of showing that he can be a consistent NHL goaltender. He has not shown the want to be a good goaltender. If Toronto can tap in,
I've seen
good.
I've seen lots of Samsonov's games. I've seen a lot of your Twitter rants during some of those games.
He makes me sick.
But to say he's never shown anything in the NHL at all, no, that is completely.
He's shown that he's a backup goaltender. That's what he's shown.
Well, like I said, Jack Campbell was a backup goaltender for 12 years before he came to Toronto.
I know. It's just that if you want to, that's the whole point here with the Leafs. And we can move on because there's big signing news with the Leafs, but they constantly roll the dice on guys. And eventually the dice don't come up your way. I've played craps, all right? Like, the dice stop working for you. And if they can do it again with Samsonov, everybody should be clamoring to hire their goaltending team then, because I have nothing but negative faith toward this guy. I wish him well. All I'll say from a Capitals fan's perspective, I couldn't be more excited to have Darcy Kemper in the crease and not Ilya Samsonov. Anyway,
go ahead, Clarkey. I see you shaking your head.
Well, no, Darcy Kempfer, Ryan has a short memory, because all during the playoffs last year, he was saying how, Colorado could win with an average at best goaltender. And then all of a sudden Washington signs the guy and he's one of the best 3 or 5 goalies in the league, according to Ryan. So, let's just.
That's not what I said.
It is what you said.
That's not what I said. What I said was, and I agree, I stand by that statement that Colorado could have won with average goaltending. And what they got out of Kemper largely on that playoff run, outside of the Stanley Cup final where he was really good the last 3 games. Outside of that, forgetting that stinker he let in Game 4, outside of that, Darcy Kemper is in the top 5 over the last 5 years in even strength save percentage, high danger save percentage, penalty kill save percentage. He actually ranks 3rd in 5-on-5 save percentage over the last 5 years. Like the guy was almost a Vezina candidate with the Coyotes. Let me say that one more time. The Coyotes.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell.
Time will tell. I'm not saying he's Dominik Hasek. He's way better than Ilya Samsonov. Let me tell you that right now.
Time will tell.
Interesting news today out of Leafland as we record this on Thursday, September 29th with our friend Jason. Rasmus Sandin is going to play. He's going to play. And Kyle, I'm sure you're probably happy about this, Dark Guy. He played hardball with a guy. He said, you get $1.4 million and not a cent more. And here he is on a 2-year, $2.8 million deal.
Yeah, it's nice to see Dubas stand his ground, but I also like a lot of moves that Dubas has made in the last few off seasons. So I'm not one of the ones on the bandwagon there with the hashtag Fire Dubas that you see all over social media. That's not me. But yes, it was nice to see him win this one, and to a certain extent, nice on the Sandin camp. Whether it was a little self-serving or not, given the injuries that the Leafs have sustained with Jordy Ben going down and a couple others. So
Muzzin.
It was the Sandin camp that made the contact today that said, you know what, listen, let's get this done today.
And that's Louis Gross, right?
Whether or not they came to their senses or they saw an opportunity to have some playing time to start the year, whatever the case may be, they contacted Dubas. They wanted to get it done, and it's nice to have Sandin back. Hopefully, his game takes another step or two forward, because it's about time he really shows a little more too, or it's time to move on from him.
I agree, and you're right, Clarkey. Louis Gross is his representative, who, of course, represented William Nylander during his contract stalemate. And I would think, like you said, Jason, that they saw an opportunity here and said, look, a bunch of guys are hurt. Even if guys weren't hurt, this guy has a talent ceiling. As I switch from negativity with Samsonov to positivity with Sandin, a guy who I watched play a lot in the OHL and got a front row seat to his game. Wise beyond his years at that junior level, and a guy that you could clearly tell had the potential to at least be a top 4 defenseman. I think Louis Gross looked back on that year that Nylander held out until the final minute, it seemed. And when he came back, you could clearly tell it affected him. He was slow. He had a bad season when he did end up playing, and then he turned it around. But I think he looked at a young guy in Sandin and said, you got an opportunity here. I don't want to have a situation like that again where you wait till late November, December to come back. Mm-hmm. There's an opportunity for this kid to be an extremely important Toronto Maple Leaf for a long, long time.
Well, I agree. And it's like, I don't know exactly what he was asking for. I'm not overly certain what the ask from the Sandin camp was, but let's put this into perspective. He had 5 goals and 11 assists last year, if I remember correctly. Like we're talking about a 16-point player. 1.4 million is fair, bud. You know,
yeah.
Time to step up and prove yourself.
Yeah, and not exactly a big tough defenseman either. So you got to do one or the other. Like let's produce somewhere, right? So, but it's good to have him there because he's going to get his chance now, as you said, with some injuries. Liljegren's out, Muzzin has a bad back, and they need the depth. So he's got a chance. The door's open. Take it and run with it, bud. That's what he needs to do.
Well, he definitely needs to. And like I said, if at some point in time in the very beginning stages of the season, we don't keep seeing growth and development, you need to start asking some other questions.
Did the Leafs have to move on from Justin Holl?
Like 3 years ago?
Well, he's still there.
I know. I said I'm not on the Fire Dubas train, but he does make for as many good decisions and moves he makes, there are some head scratchers, and Justin Hall is one of them.
I just wonder if he'll make it, and if they have to move someone, he's the guy. But we'll see.
Well, you would hope. You would hope. I mean, listen, Victor Mete could probably come in and eat Justin Hall's minutes.
You'd think,
at a fraction of the price, right? So
I completely agree. I completely agree. Like Justin Hall, I think that, I was watching our friend Steve Dangle's video about this the other day, and I kind of agree with him. I think that Hall's saving grace is that he's right-handed. Like that, I really feel like it boils down to that's about it, because I see a guy that, again, as a fan of a different team, or even just observing from the outside, glad he's not on my blue line. He is so easy to exploit in front of his own net. He basically doesn't exist. Like he's a ghost in front of his own net. You can just go right through that guy. Like it doesn't. So I don't really see, the general value that he brings outside of being right-handed and being able to receive a pass on his forehand and get it up the ice quickly. Like fine. Okay. I guess.
Well, he has a little bit of size going for him, but he doesn't particularly use that size very well.
Yeah. He's big for no reason.
So I don't know. The Edmonton Marlboros could probably use them out there in Edmonton. They seem to like taking our scraps. So
yeah, well, yeah, no kidding. Well, sometimes the scraps sometimes the scraps play pretty well out there. No, I will say this. I don't know if you would remember DartGuy. You definitely would. Clarkey, you don't pay as close attention to rosters from like 2010 maybe as we do. He reminds me of Jeff Schultz. Remember Jeff Schultz when he played for the Caps? 6'5", which Hall is, I believe. He's 6'4",
played for Edmonton too, didn't he?
No. That was Justin Schultz, who was also recently with the Capitals. No, Jeff Schultz, big for absolutely no reason, but he was right-handed, and it was like, well, he's big, like fine. It just bizarre. But anyway, lots of optimism around the Leafs, despite once again losing in the first round.
There should be. I agree with you.
Well, they're talented. They're very talented. I want to ask you quickly, though, Jason, because you're not on the hashtag Fire Dubas bandwagon. What if they lose in the first round again?
Oh, here we go.
If they lose in the first round and Dubas, there's too many questions, but I mean, it depends how the season's playing out. Dubas has a history of not going for like that blockbuster move come trade deadline. And I believe part of that is because he likes to keep his assets, likes to keep his prospects. But if you're looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs in January and you see something missing and you don't pull the trigger, then yeah, if you lose in the first round, you should probably be on the hot seat or unemployed. He's had more than enough time here. He's made a lot of good moves, but it depends on how the season plays out. I truly think there was a missed opportunity last year heading into the playoffs with a guy like JT Miller. I would have loved to have seen Dubas go all in and trade for JT Miller, because you're bringing in a guy that would have the scoring prowess and bring a level of physicality. Like he's one of the few remaining true power forwards in the game. I even using that term loosely with JT, but he is a physical guy who can put the puck in the net. Now, I saw an easy swap there of a William Nylander for a JT Miller. They would have gotten Vancouver would have gotten a year or two younger and saved $1 million or for an extra $1 million, and we would have got Miller, who was a year or two older, but we would have saved $1 million in cap space. That would have allowed the Leafs at the deadline to maybe make a move for a D as well. But Dubas hasn't made those type of moves going into the deadline. Saved Mark Giordano, for example. That was a great move. Love seeing him back. But when it comes down to it, it's all going to depend on how the season plays out and whether Dubas has done anything to address the team come deadline.
I'm so torn on this one because I want a competitive team. I want a good team all season long where they're going to win way more than they lose, and that's what we've been getting. And I honestly think in the playoffs, you got to just have all the stars aligned. And I don't know if I believe the built for the playoffs, built for regular season mumbo jumbo that's going on. Sure, it's being proven now, I guess, because they can't get by that first round. But they have a very good team. And Ryan will be first to tell you about those Caps teams who kept missing and not getting there and everything else. This is a very good team. And if they finish near the top of the standings once again, but do lose, Lord help us, in the first round, I don't know if they're going to make any changes because they love the fact that this team is competitive year after year after year. So it's a tough one for me. I know the ultimate goal is to win the Stanley Cup. I know you got to get there, but all the stars have to be aligned. And we thought maybe 2 years ago when they played Montreal in the first round that the stars could have been aligned then, but they weren't. But what do you feel about that?
Well, I'll tell you this. The one thing I will agree with is I saw a stat the other day that now has the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe, with the second or third longest active playoff streak, which is a big change from the longest non-playoff streak that we had going there for quite some time, whatever it was, 13 seasons. Yeah. So, I get it. And you have to believe that, the dollars and cents for MLSE and their board of governors, as long as the Leafs are winning, in the regular season, they're making their money. They're probably thinking Dubas is doing a great job. So you never know. Like I said, I'm not on the fire Dubas train. I think there's a lot of smarts there, and he's proven himself to be a great GM. Don't agree with every single move, and that's the way it's going to go. But I just think that if we're seeing the season playing out and it's going a certain way, that if he needs to make a big move to shake things up, he's going to need to pull the trigger. If he does nothing and we lose in the first round again, I don't know how the Leafs would be able to not do something.
Do you think it matters that he's basically a lame duck GM right now, that he doesn't have this a contract beyond this year? And will that make a difference this year when it comes to maybe trading a first or futures, to make a run this year?
Dubas seems like a stubborn gentleman when it comes to negotiations and things like that, trades and whatnot. I don't foresee him mortgaging the future on something unless it makes sense. That much I give him the credit for. I don't think he's going to go out and trade a Matthew Knees or a first rounder just to save his job, possibly. Because if he's not with the Leafs next year, there's going to be a dozen teams lining up for his services.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? And it's like such a weird dynamic because the players play the games. And so the general managers, I don't care what sport it is, do they get undue criticism to a degree, especially in a situation like this? Sure, because it's not the same as like, if I build a house, the house is only as sturdy as I make it. That kind of logic doesn't really apply with sports because you can put together this great looking roster on paper and have everybody be excited about it, a la Washington Capitals forever before 2018, and it doesn't work out. It's hard to win. There's 32 teams. There's luck involved. There's bad bounces. There's all these factors that come in. But when
bad
it's
officiating,
bad officiating too, which falls under bad bounces. Like, dude, trust me, if I could go back to 2009 and change that overtime call in Game 6 against Pittsburgh, I would do it. But when it's a team like this with this much talent that can't even win a round, I really don't care what happens. I don't care if he goes all in and trades 50 first rounders and brings in every star player in the league. If they lose in triple overtime in Game 7 to mighty Tampa Bay again, fired. Because unfortunately, even with everything I just said, it's a results-oriented business. I don't think he's a great GM. I think he's an inventive GM. I think he's a different GM with new ideas and new ways of looking at the game, but it hasn't amounted in literally, I can't say any success, but I'm sorry. If they lose again in the first round, they've got to get rid of him. But I will agree with you, Clarkey, that I don't think that they need to make major changes to the core of the team. And what I really mean is Tavares, Austin, Marner, and Riley. William Nylander, and I know you're definitely on the hashtag trade Nylander team, Jason, is, again, I'll make the comparison yet again. He is Alexander Semin to me. He just is. He's a guy that you could absolutely just get rid of and bring another guy in like a JT Miller, and it would actually do wonders for the team. That's just my opinion.
So while Dubas has done an amazing job of finding guys to come in and fill the spots after offseason, he's brought in some great guys doing great jobs with Bunting and even Blackwell last year, bringing in Yarncroc this year. He's done great things that way in managing the bottom half of the roster with the cap space available. When I get to some of the question marks, it's like, why is Justin Hall still in the lineup? After the entire world watched William Nylander let up on a puck in the playoffs on national television because he didn't want to get hit. I get it. He is a talented guy who is going to pot 30, 40 goals for you. I get it. I understand his value. I understand his talent. How you could bring back William Nylander after that. Now, I get later on, it was the next game, he went on to score a tying or game-winning goal after that horrible display. But that wasn't the first time Nylander let up on a puck to avoid getting hit. That wasn't the first time Nylander turned away from a puck because he didn't want to get hit. Like, this is a reoccurring theme with him. You have to know Brendan Shanahan, of all people, for crying out loud, has to know what kind of player you need to win in the playoffs. And I'm sorry, for as talented as he is, William Nylander isn't it. Why is he still in the line? You can't tell me that there wasn't at least 3 or 4 guys on the Leafs bench that game when William Nylander let up on that puck that didn't go again. Like, it's the playoffs, Willie. What are you doing? Like, that has to resonate up and down the bench, and there has to be some kind of conversations going on in the dressing room. Like, you can't tell me his entire team is okay watching him do that. Like, that's just, I don't know. I get, again, maybe it's scared you're not going to get the return on the value for him. I don't think that would be the case. And a lot of teams would love to have William Nylander. A lot of teams would. But I just don't understand how you bring him back after watching that against Tampa last year again.
Okay, we're nearly out of time, but is Auston Matthews a Leaf for life?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I think so. So next July 1st, they sign him?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I hope you're right. He deserves to be, I think. He's the best one that's ever played, so.
Yeah, he's the most talented Leafs player of all time. That's not even a question for me anymore. But there were some interesting comments floating around online. Obviously, Elliot Friedman the other day on 32 Thoughts said that Arizona is going to go full bore for him. And I've
told you that before.
That they're factoring him into their plans. And again,
I said that a year ago, but Elliot Friedman says it. Now you say it on the show. Oh, I see.
No.
See how it works.
I've never denied that Arizona would want him to come there.
They're going to see him as the savior of the franchise. I told you that.
That's why
they're trying to wait.
But I have no doubts they would like to bring him there. That's never been the argument, Clarkey, that they want him. Of course they want him. Every team would want him if he was a free agent.
Oh, yeah,
every team would want Auston Matthews. Yeah, just like every team would have wanted Crosby or Ovechkin or whoever. Of course Arizona wants him. They just want to be good. They'd love to win more than 30 games.
There's 31 teams
Auston Matthews.
The Maple Leafs.
Absolutely.
Their plans.
You're completely right. I'll say this again. I'll repeat myself one more time. Auston Matthews can officially flush his legacy and his career down the toilet if he leaves Toronto and signs in Arizona just so he can play at home. What's so bad about your new home?
You can't just say that, Ryan.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't, because if he goes there and wins,
he won't.
How do you know that?
Arizona.
We can't say that. You can't predict the future. You
Yes,
don't know
I can.
what'll happen. Okay,
Yes,
good.
I
You
can.
can. There you go. If we haven't accomplished
can look
anything in
into-
this show, it's that Ryan can predict the future. Perfect.
I don't need to predict the future. I just need to be logical.
I understand, but they could get better.
In the
That
next
team
2
will,
years,
that organization will never
in the
get
next
better.
2 years, how much better are they getting?
Dude, I'm not saying the next 2 years, but in 5 years, could they be better?
But he'll be over 30 years old by then.
So what? How old's Ovi?
Yeah, okay, you're talking about two very different players and two very different franchises.
I
Compare
get it,
Washington
Ryan,
to Arizona? Don't do that.
I'm just saying I still think that the league is trying to prop them up in hopes that he goes there and saves the franchise.
Well, no
Well,
kidding.
they might
them play in a 5,000 seat arena.
Right.
Obviously, the league's
Yeah.
propping them up.
He could play in Collingwood, right?
I don't think while it would be a great story for Matthews to go home, I don't think he has any interest of joining the gong show that is the Arizona Coyotes. He's going to go home and save hockey in Arizona. Bettman's been trying to save hockey in Arizona for a decade, and
I know. Yep.
I just completely disagree. And again, I'll say it again. His legacy will forever be tarnished. He can never, ever look down the lens of a camera and say, I care about winning. Like that will be completely out the window of all sports organizations on earth that call themselves professional. It is the worst one. And there is absolutely no way that he alone could go there and save them.
I'm not saying him alone, but anyway, let's just thank Jason for this nice job.
Is he going to score 60 again, Jason? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, he says. That would make him the first since Pavel Bure to have back-to-back 60-goal seasons since the mid-90s. DartGuy, I really appreciate it, man. We love having you on the show. We got to have him on more. Like, we were heated today. Clarkey's red in the face. Look
Called
at him.
instigating. What do you want to do? Right?
I love it, man. Jason, we really appreciate it, brother. Thanks for doing this.
As always, thanks for having me on, and I look forward to giving you a hug with my Samsonov jersey on.
Yeah, thanks. I'll settle for a handshake. You can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We're on YouTube, debuting Fridays at 9 p.m. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Thanks again to our great sponsors, Coolbet Canada, the Listowel Squash Courts, Listowel Vision Care, See the Game. Our great guest this week, Jim Cressman, and the one and only DartGuy, Jason Maslakow. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.